What up everyone, True Blue here, and Pokemon has forced us to go to Kanto on many occasions. Obviously we have the originals, Red, Blue, Yellow, Green. Then they remade it on the GBA, Fire Red, Leaf Green, and most recently, like 4 years back, Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee came out, which gapped the Pokemon Go fanbase and the rest of the games. There's also all the times we've been there in Johto and other stuff. There's just been a lot of Kanto. And we've never really had a proper, perfect Kanto game, if you will. We've never had a definitive Kanto experience. Each time we visited, there's been issues. If it's just the game itself, coding, technical, whatever the case, there's always something. And I'd like to rectify that mistake and give Pokemon Company what we've been so wanting, of course, and that's more Gen 1. The definitive way to play Gen 1 Pokemon. And that is my pitch to you all today. I have designed what I feel would encapsulate what makes those original games so fun, what the remakes did so well, and what makes modern Pokemon what it is, in one conclusive package that we could all appreciate. And that is Pokemon Lightning Red and Tidal Green. It's the best way I can incorporate the 4 games without doing like a 2 and like a definitive view. I thought they sound cool. They sound cool. Anyway, before I get into it any further, if you want to hear more of my random video game ideas, sequel ideas, remakes, whatever, let me know. With the likes, the comments, and of course subscribing, because there's always more content on the way. Anyway, Pokemon Lightning Red and Tidal Green. Lightning, obviously referencing Pikachu, Tidal, like a tidal wave for Blastoise, so it has all the games. Now, the basis of these games is Fire Red and Leaf Green. I feel that is the fan favorite addition to Kanto. For those who don't know, the original Red, Blue, Yellow, Green are, of course, the first games, so they are missing a ton of what we have gotten used to in Pokemon, like good gameplay. They are held together by like a thumbtack of code. They're very poorly designed, in all honesty, and it definitely has not aged the best. Pokemon Fire Red Leaf Green, being a Gen 3 game, also has definitely aged. A lot of the gameplay is very much old school compared to modern Pokemon. There's definitely a lack of proper movesets and certain features that, again, you get more familiar with if you've played the later entries. So I really want to update those games. And then Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, while being a Kanto experience, really is its own beast. But I did want to take aspects because it is still technically mainline and a Gen 1 game. So I wanted to take basically just little bits of that, but focus mostly on the older ones. Try creating that perfect experience. The game itself would play traditional Pokemon, you know. It's not like the Let's Go where you're catching with them. You know, you're going around the routes. I picture it'd be styled, at least overworld-wise, is like Let's Go and BDSP being a 3D reimagining of those classic tile-based games. But I would think they would basically take those originals, update all the maps. I do have a few changes that I would like to see them do to that original map layout, but all the Pokemon encounters would be basically the same as you remember. Some of them would just be earlier on now, so you have more options. Version exclusives remain the same as always. But the big thing is, like Sword and Shield did, I would like to see grass encounters and overworld encounters, since Let's Go, you saw the Pokemon. Every other time we've been to Kanto, you've had to run through the grass. So if you had a combination of both, like Sword and Shield did, I think it'd really go a long way. Speaking of the changes I'd like for the map, on top of that original map, I would like to see the Sevi Islands, of course. You know, basically everything that was added, I want in this game from the original game. So all the Fire Red Leaf Green kind of extra content, the Let's Go content, the things that don't necessarily correlate to other games. So all the like Pokemon Go connectivity we don't really need. All of the connectivity to the other Gen 3 games we don't need. Those can be excluded, but those kind of areas and ideas would still find its way into this project. Also, because we've been to Johto, we've experienced Gen 2 and how that connects to Gen 1. I would like to see Mount Silver appear in this game. It doesn't necessarily have to be the Johto Mount Silver with a ton of Johto Pokemon, but I would like to see Mount Silver show up because that is a big kind of landmark overall. It'd be cool if the train actually did work and connect to Goldenrod. Plus some sort of battle tower, since you could experience that in Fire Leaf Green. Speaking of like some extra changes, the radio tower from Gen 2 along with Pokemon Tower, if they were separate buildings and you could experience both within one game, because let's be honest, I think we all agree the radio tower being the replacement for what's meant to be a graveyard is very, very upsetting. So I like to see both coexist. Cinnabar Island, also, we know that it gets destroyed from a volcano, so I'd like to be able to explore and see that volcano, because it's on like every artwork for Cinnabar Island, but I don't think we've ever once properly seen it, so that'd be nice. And then Go Park and Savari Zone, I would also like to see together, but this is more stretching it because I'm not expecting Pokemon Go connectivity in this project. I just feel that's a bit much for what they need, but I would like to see it. And on top of that, I would like to see them try incorporating some new ideas for Go Park. For example, we had BDSP have Ramona's Park, where the legendaries were. We could have some extra area that isn't a Safari Zone, but is something new that we could experience with Go Park, and that could be separate locations. Now, that's all the changes I have for the map. But story-wise, this is just Gen 1. I'm not trying to make some crazy new game. This is meant to be definitive Gen 1. So it's not trying to replace those old games. It's just kind of trying to harken back to them and give people a modern, proper way to experience them. So the whole plot I would take from Fire Red Leaf Green, like the little extra bits of that game, I'd also keep. But I would like an extra rival, that being Leaf or Green, alongside Blue, so you now have, your main rival, Blue, and then another rival that you'd run into from time to time. A Team Rocket postgame that would lead to Gen 2. Fire Red Leaf Green didn't... It had, extra Team Rocket stuff, but, I feel like something more directly connected to it would be nice. And besides that, kind of an extra early game subplot with a Pikachu/Eevee involvement, so we can kind of have that connectivity between Yellow and Let's Go of you having these extra partner Pokemon. So a kind of subplot throughout the early game where you befriend a Pikachu or Eevee depending on your version really would just tie up everything. Now, before I move on to the little extra gameplay changes, since all the Gen 1 games have their own style and they're obviously different, what I would take, I want to talk about the Pokemon. So the main complaint most people have had with Fire Red Leaf Green and Let's Go, besides random things, has been the Pokemon selection. Especially in Fire Red Leaf Green, all the Gen 2 Evos were locked behind beating the game. You could not get Crobat until you beat the League, because, Crobat didn't exist in Gen 1, but it did when Fire Red Leaf Green came out. They just locked it for whatever reason. So for this definitive edition, I would like to see a very much expanded Pokedex. I would like them to add all of those pre-Evos and post evolutions to this dex, padding it out a ton. On top of that, some way to get all of the regional forms would be nice. And I also have here some Johto Pokemon that are very much heavily associated and tied in with Gen 1 thanks to the anime and marketing, even though they are Gen 2 Pokemon. So I'd like to see some of those probably be again, that could be Mount Silver, Goldenrod, late game, so it's not really affecting, the Gen 1 experience, but still cool that we have some other Pokemon that, at least in the grand scheme of things, have been heavily associated with the original gen. So for this Pokedex, we have the original 151. Then we also have Pichu, Cleffa, Igglybuff, Crobat, Blossom, Annihilate, Politoed, Slowking, Magnezone, Steelix, Tyrogue, Hitmontop, Licky Licky, Rhyperior, Happiny, Blissey, Tangrowth, Kingdra, Scizor, Smoochum, Elekid, Electivire, Magby, Magmortar, Espeon, Umbreon, Leafeon, Glaceon, Sylveon, Porygon 2, Porygon Z, and Munchlax. Also, since we now have regional evolutions and regional forms, I think it'd be cool if we took all of the regional Evos to Kanto Pokemon and gave them Kanto versions now available in this game. So a new Kanto Kleavor, which I labeled as Ghost Bug, a Kanto Sirfetch'd, Steel Flying, a Kanto Berserker, Normal Dragon, and Kanto Mr. Rhyme, Psychic Fairy. While they're kind of random, they do balance out the type distribution of Kanto due to how they have a very weird and odd number of types throughout the list, so this definitely balances out a bit with more options for people playing the game. You guys can expand the ideas of these Pokemon in the comments, maybe throw out some other ideas you would like to see, but there's kind of just quick little asides that I think balance out the overall game. Now for those Johto Pokemon that I mentioned, right before the league, like again, Mount Silver, Victory Road, post-game, I think it'd be cool if we saw some of these Pokemon show up in some way, shape, or form, cameo. That would be the Togepi line, the Marill line, the Snubbull line, the Fanphy line, Miltank, Skarmory, the Mischievous line, the Larvitar line, and then Ho and Lugia. Those are all staple Gen 2 Pokemon, but they all have some sort of tie to Gen 1. Of course, like Togepi, Marill appeared in the anime, Donphan appeared in the movie, Miltank and Skarmory, Mischievous, those are three, I would say pseudo-popular Pokemon, but they also, again, they balance out the types a bit. Who doesn't like Tyranitar? And then Ho-Oh, literally episode 1 of the original anime. You have to have Ho-Oh, so... And you can't have Ho without Lugia, so I just kind of threw in Lugia. Also, because they don't really fit in anywhere else, Meltan, Melmetal would be extra mythicals in this game as well. That brings the total Pokemon from 151 to 206 different species to fill out your Pokedex. While it is a far cry from what we get nowadays with like base 400 in each entry, it is still more Pokemon, more options, more team variety. It'd be a lot of fun for new players and old players alike having these extra options. And this also affects the trainers, but we'll get to that more later. I also have a list of the regional variants, all the Gen 1 regional variants. There's so many. But I did pull like a let's go and have most of them be some form of in-game trade, a version exclusive in-game trade, or transfer only, because this would connect to Pokemon Home, of course. So I'll go through that really quickly. Alolan Rattata, in-game trade. Alolan Raichu, in-game trade. Alolan Sandshrew and Vulpix would be version exclusive in-game trades. Alolan Diglett is transfer only. Alolan Meowth, transfer only. Alolan Geodude is an in-game trade. Alolan Grimer, version exclusive in-game trade. Alolan Executor, in-game trade. Alolan Marowak, in-game trade. Galarian Meowth, in-game trade. Galarian Ponyta is transfer only. Galarian Slowpoke, transfer only. Galarian Farfetch, in-game trade. Galarian Weezing, version exclusive. Galarian Mr. Mime, in-game trade. The Galarian Birds would all be transfer only. Hisuian Growlithe, transfer only. Hisuian Kleavor, transfer only. Hisuian Voltorb, in-game trade. And Paldean Tauros would be a version exclusive in-game trade based off of the form. There you go. Not only would you have all of these accessible in the game, but you also realize out of all the regional forms, how many of these stupid things are freaking Kanto Pokemon? Pokemon Company, please! Please, we don't need this much Kanto representation anymore. Pokemon aside, now that you guys kind of know where my brain is at when it comes to all of that stuff, for the gameplay, I expect the modern style of gameplay, the modern combat mechanics, held items, abilities, you have all the different moves, physical special split, all of that stuff. Modern mechanics, modern typings. I would also like to see a more modern art style akin to maybe how Let's Go did it, but not necessarily. Removal of HMs, of course, because we haven't had that in years, and let's be honest, we don't want that. I would like to see how Scarlet and Violet handle the TMs. Each Pokemon could have like pieces that they drop after defeat or being captured, and then you could use those to remake TMs, so you can still have them be breakable like in the original games, but a very much easy and renewable source to resupply your options. Various ride Pokemon, like in Let's Go, you have them follow you, like walking Pokemon will be back, and some of them you were able to ride throughout the game. I'd like to see that return. If they also went back and brought back the Let's Go Eevee and Pikachu exclusive moves in some way, shape, or form, that'd be pretty sick. If we went all the way back and gave back the original Professor Oak post-game battles, which he was meant to be like the original Red, like this big final battle super boss, I think it'd be awesome if we had that back. Mega Evolution, since it was in Let's Go, I wasn't originally going to put Mega Evolution in this, but I figured might as well since Let's Go had them. And if we're going to go to Goldenrod, I mean, we might as well throw in a post-game Whitney battle for the fun of it. And lastly, because Fire Red and Leaf Green actually did have these, so we're going to go on a stretch. If you guys remember, the e-reader, this could read special cards that would work with the Pokemon games. They were TCG compatible, sort of. Well, they were just Pokemon cards with like little things to scan. I think it'd be cool if we brought back the TCG connectivity, this time with Amiibo cards. For those who don't know, Animal Crossing has been like the only like major use of it, but they have released Amiibo card packs, which is just, you know, the cards, they have NFC chips, they work just like Amiibo, but they're little cards, they're not plastic figures. Pokemon could easily incorporate this into the TCG with custom TCG Amiibo that would just be Pokemon cards with like a little like Amiibo symbol, and then bam, you could use them in this game. Pokemon's never really done much with Amiibo. Heck, we've only ever seen Smash incorporate Pokemon as Amiibo, so who knows if they would do that, but to harken back to what Fire Red and Leaf Green and those Gen 3 games did, I think it'd be cool if they brought that back as TCG Amiibo cards. Let me know if you guys actually would like to see any form of Pokemon Amiibo or TCG Amiibo cards. Nintendo obviously doesn't do much with Amiibo anymore, but it's still very much a big part of their product lines and game connectivity, so I personally would definitely buy it and like to see that, but let me know if you guys ever actually would be interested in some form of Amiibo connectivity nowadays. Now that's basically the game. There isn't much more to say, but I did go through every major trainer within the original Gen 1 games that would obviously reappear here, and gave them modern teams based off of various appearances, since, again, most of these characters are classics and have reappeared many times. So I went through, I gave the Rivals teams, all the gym leaders, and all the post-game battles that I have planned. So I'll go through them one at a time. So, your rival, of course, is Blue. Smugfing. He'll have a Mega Pidgeot. Alakazam. Both are like classic Pokemon he's used in many appearances. Umbreon to reference the anime. Aerodactyl fits with everything going, and then he'll have a Pokemon weak to your starter, Gyarados, Exeggutor, Arcanine, and then the starter strong against you. So there is a few references, but it's mostly just kind of like a balanced team he would use against you, and it'd be kind of like a good final battle. Also, early game, he would definitely have the Rattata Eradicate that he then switches out for no apparent reason. For Green, or Leaf, depending on how you want to call her, her team would be the starter weak against you, which can Mega Evolve, a Pokemon strong against your starter, Ninetales, Slowbro, or Vileplume, then Clefable, to reference the manga. Gengar references the Clefable, because the theories. And then Nidoqueen and Persian to reference various versions of the character with ties to Team Rocket and all of that. Now for the gym leaders. Brock would just have his classic team of Geodude, Onix. Staples, I see no reason to replace them. Misty, I gave her just her Let's Go team of Psyduck, Starmie. Again, it just works so well, I'm not gonna touch that. The rest I did play with a bit. So for Lieutenant Surge, I gave him Elekid, Voltorb, and Raichu. Since there is this extended Pokedex now, I did want to use some of these Pokemon. on top of their teams because some of them did fit very well with the gym leaders and their personalities, so I want to fit some in. And I didn't like having the Magnemite line on Lieutenant Surge. Something about it just didn't sit right. So I do like giving him a Lekid. And then Voltorb Raichu, of course, from his original teams. Erica, I kept her team the same, but replaced Vileplume with Bellossom. So she now has Tangela, Weepinbell, Blossom, because Bellossom works a lot better with Erica than Vileplume, in my opinion. Then, instead of Koga, I like to see Janine be the Poison Gym leader for this game. Well, in the grand scheme of things, it wouldn't really matter. She's only ever appeared in, obviously, the Johto post-game, so I would like to see her just have a new appearance, and I think it'd be fun if, for some reason, it's just not Koga, it's Janine. So Janine is here, but her team is just Koga's team. Nothing too crazy, but it's the little things I'd appreciate. Heck, maybe Koga is like in the town somewhere, he's just not a gym leader in this game. Sabrina, I did mess with her team a bit. Hypno, Slowking, Mr. Rhyme, the new one that I made, and Alakazam. For one, Alakazam is so, like, tied with Sabrina, I had to keep that her ace. But Hypno also is, it's a Pokemon I don't think she's used a lot. But I feel if you're gonna go for the scary Sabrina that we all, like, know her as, Hypno is definitely the Psychic type for her. And then Slowking and Mr. Rhyme, I think, just kind of rounded out with strong Pokemon that fit in with all the Psychic types in the game. Blaine, I kept his team mostly the same as well. I just replaced his first Pokemon with Flareon because I'm kind of surprised Blaine's never used a Flareon. I feel like Flareon works really well with Blaine and his personality. So he has his Arcanine, Ninetales, Rapidash, but Flareon as his lead, another Pokemon. Giovanni, I did play with his team a lot. So he obviously has his Rhydon and Nidoking. Those are two classics. Dugtrio, another Pokemon he's used in the past. Steelix, a powerful, menacing Pokemon, would fit great with Giovanni. And Persian, seriously, why has he never had the Persian on a team? I don't care if it doesn't fit the type thing. So many other gym leaders have had Pokemon that don't fit, but it's whatever for lore reasons, so give him the Persian, please. For the League, I did keep the original League. I didn't take, like, Will from Gen 2 or have Koga be added. I just kept the original ones because I didn't want to have that overlap of trainer types, because Will is Psychic, of course, and Koga would just be Poison. But I did mess with all of these teams a ton, so they have proper type coverage. Lorelei, I kept her team basically the same, but I replaced Slowbro with Glaceon, so her team is now Dugong, Glaceon, Jinx, Cloyster, Lapras. Her team overall was Ice type. It was a lot of Ice Water, and I still don't really like that too much, but in all honesty, it's fine. Like, she's the first one. It's fine. I'm not gonna sit here and be like, oh, she's a big overhaul. It's fine. Bruno, I hate that he had two Onixes. There's so many fighting types that he just didn't use, but I gave him Hitmonlee, Hitmonchan with Champ, like always, but I did throw in Hitmontop. He has all the Hitmons now, which is very fun. And I gave him Paldean Tauros, just a standard one. That's a fighting type. I think it fits with Bruno's whole kind of just menacing aura that he gives off, even if he's always like the easiest member of the league to beat, in my opinion, but that's whatever. Now for Agatha, the reason I specifically picked Miss Magius and gave Cleavor the ghost typing to balance out Agatha and give her a proper ghost type team. So her team now is a lone Marowak, the new Cleavor, which has that ghost typing I mentioned. Gengar is no longer her ace Pokemon, but still on the team. Miss Magius, of course, and then Annihilate. Her team is really good now. Very, very strong now. But it is ghost type, and I think that's fine. Obviously, Ghost would be very strong. Like, this would be a very difficult team to beat, but, you know, we could just have them have really bad movesets and move along. For Lance, Gyarados obviously isn't a dragon. I could have definitely incorporated another dragon Pokemon somewhere, but Lance is so tied to Gyarados. Like, that is kind of his mainstay Pokemon, even if it isn't an actual dragon type. So I kept the Gyarados for Lance, regardless of its typing, but then I put Alolan Executor, that new Berserker I mentioned, Dragonite. So he has a whole dragon team, and then Gyarados. It's the whole Giovanni thing all over again, but it just works. For the extra teams of like post-game battles, Professor Oak, when you fight him, is going to have quite the team. He has Charizard, Venusaur, Blastoise, all referencing the starters, and then Raichu, Sylveon, referencing Pikachu and Eevee, the two other like starter Pokemon you'd end up getting. Sylveon is more so for the coverage of having the fairy type, and then Raichu's just evolved. And lastly, I gave Rhyperior, because Rhydon is like the first Pokemon, Rhyhorn, they're classic Gen 1 Pokemon. I think Rhyperior just being the strongest of it on the team, good coverage overall, it would just be a strong team to fight. For that post-game Whitney battle that I mentioned a while back, her team would be Blissey, Snorlax, Granbull, a Mega Kangaskhan, and Miltank. Regardless of if she would be this powerful for whatever reason, it's just fun having, you know, you're fighting a Johto gym leader in Kanto. You know, it's just a fun little twist. Lastly, if we're going to Mount Silver, I want to give Red his definitive team. I wanted Red to be in this game so you don't have to play through all of Johto and Kanto to fight him. You can just play Kanto. So because of that, I gave Red a very interesting mix of Pokemon that all reference various iterations of the character. So Alolan Raichu, because Pikachu, obviously all, you know, Red's mascot, you'd have it. But I like to think he evolved it in Alola, because that Sun and Moon cameo that we have. He has a Mega Charizard X. This is from Red in Origins, who has a Charizard X. Poliwrath to reference the manga. Umbreon to reference the OG battle, because he had Espeon in Gold and Silver, but I replaced... instead of Espeon, it's Umbreon. It's the same kind of ideology with an evolution. It's just, I didn't want Espeon because Alolan Raichu's already Psychic type, and there's another Psychic type on the team, so just, I didn't want all the Psychic types, regardless of how strong they are. Snorlax, because quite literally, like, every version of Red has a Snorlax. It's not even funny. So, Snorlax. And lastly, Mew. Red is that guy. I think it's fine if he's the last battle of the game and pulls out a Mew. We've had trainers pull out insane Pokemon before in battle facilities. I think it's fine if the final, like, super boss of this game just has a mythical. Plus, it's not like it's Mewtwo, it's Mew. So, stat-wise, again, God knows what that moveset's gonna look like, but stat-wise, it isn't too menacing. That is my version of the definitive Gen 1 Pokemon experience. Pokemon Lightning Red and Tidal Green. I really like the names. I really like the names. This ended up taking a lot more random, like, not research, just kind of like, there were so many ideas floating in my head for what could make a good Kanto game that I really had to trim so much of, like, the fat of this video to get to what I thought was the key points and what I really want to talk about. So, yeah. If you guys want to take those new versions of old Pokemon and make, like, your own fan art, spice them up. Heck, if you want to make new regional forms or, like, take some Johto Pokemon, bring them to Kanto, whatever. Let me know any extra ideas you have in the comments. I'd love to interact with you guys and hear any cool suggestions you have for Kanto games, because I feel like at some point, everyone who's played Pokemon has experienced Kanto in some way, even if it's just Pokemon Go. With all that being said, I want to thank you all so much for watching. I had a blast making this video, and I'd love to make more. Let me know what other kind of game ideas you might have in the comments if you'd like to see me cover. Subscribe, helps the channel a ton. And I wish you all a lovely day.